Hey, welcome. I want to talk to you about the power and the potential of paradigms. 50 years is a long time. You know, I could take you back to where it all started. It all started back in 1961. This book explains how I began to earn serious money starting in 1961. I want you to think with me for a moment. Think about results. One of the greatest teachers says, by their fruits you'll know them. In other words, the results always tell the truth. They tell what's going on inside. Now think of this for a moment. Why is there such a huge difference in the results that people experience in life? And believe me, the difference is really huge. You will find two people in the same family. One enjoyed tremendous success, and the other a miserable failure. Why? Why does that happen? Well, after 50 years of studying this, I have come to the firm conclusion that it's what's going on inside. You know, there was a great designer, architect, Buckminster Fuller, Bucky Fuller. He's the man that designed the geodesic dome. And he was aware that most of us are forever trying to change something in our life. And he gave us some phenomenal advice. He said, you never change things by fighting existing reality. To change something, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Well, you know, that's exactly what I did a little over 50 years ago. I had been forever struggling, trying to make ends meet. And it just wasn't working. You would think that after a few years of doing that, you would wake up and say, wait a minute, maybe my way's the wrong way. But I didn't. And you want to know something? A high percentage of the population are on the same track I was on. They just keep struggling. It's like a fly trying to work its way through a window pane. You know it's going to die there on the windowsill. Why do we keep doing that? We're God's highest form of creation. We have been endowed with potential, with mental faculties that they go beyond the scope of our imagination. Why don't we build a new model? Well, you know, there was a doctor in San Antonio, Texas in 1934. He was very involved in the healing arts, Dr. Thurman Fleet. And he was appalled at the state of the healing arts. He said, we're not treating the cause of disease at all. He said, we're treating the disease. We're treating the symptom. He said, if there's going to be any health, you've got to treat the whole person. You've got to get into the mind and the body of the individual. The body is the instrument of the mind. Now, no one's ever seen the mind. If you ask a person what's their mind look like, generally they think of the brain. But the brain isn't the mind any more than your fingernail is. Your brain, by the way, is an electronic switching station. As you activate brain cells, you set up vibration in parts of your body. Your brain is a phenomenal instrument. It's an electronic switching station. It's exactly what it is. But it's not the mind. Mind is movement. Body is the manifestation of that movement. Now, this good doctor said, I'm going to create a picture of the mind. And there it is. There's the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the body. Now, I have mentioned in a previous video, if you saw it, that Leland Val Vanderwall explained this concept to me many, many years ago. I had been studying for a decade. I mean serious study. And I was winning, but I didn't know why. Do you know most people that are highly successful cannot articulate on why they are? I wasn't satisfied with the fact that I was successful. I wanted to know why I was, because until I knew why, I couldn't share it with someone else. See, if you don't know why you're successful, you've got non-transferable skills. And the only person they're helping is you. You can't help anyone else. You can't even give them to your children. And Val sat down with me. And he said, the mind and the body. Then he talked about the conscious mind and the subconscious. And he said, Bob, you probably know a fair amount about that. And I said, I did. I'd read many books on the mind. But I couldn't get the dots connected. And he said, that's because you don't have an image. Solomon said, where there is no image, where there is no vision, the people will perish. Yes, see, it's created, disintegrate. Well, I didn't have an image. He gave me the image. Now he said, Bob, I'm going to teach you something about the mind. And what I'm going to share with you right now is the most valuable information you'll ever get. Your conscious mind is a part of your thinking mind. That's where your thinker is, your reasoning factor. That's what gives you the ability to think. And he said that is the highest function that the human is capable of. Now, you and I are God's highest form of creation. There is nothing that will touch us if we utilize the potential, the God-given potential that we've got. This is very important. Thinking is the highest function we're capable of. And unfortunately, most people don't do very much of it. Your conscious mind is your intellectual mind. That's the educated mind. That's where the intellect is resident. This is where we gather all the knowledge in school. And if we remember it and repeat it, they'll tell us that we're educated, which isn't true, but that's another story. Now, he pointed out the subconscious mind is your emotional mind. And he said the conscious and the subconscious are totally different. If you're a psych major, the conscious mind reasons inductively and deductively, where the subconscious just reasons deductively. I'm not going to get into that in any depth in this particular video. We will in a future one. But in other words, the subconscious can only accept, can't reject. Now, the conscious mind has the ability to choose. Do you know that all the little creatures in the world are totally at home in their environment? They blend in. You and I, we're the only creature on the planet, so far as we know, that's totally disoriented in our environment. And that is because we can create our own environment. Isn't that a beautiful concept? You and I have the ability to choose. J. Martin Coe, many years ago, wrote a little book. Just a little book, but it was powerful. And it was called Your Greatest Power. And that's your greatest power, the ability to choose. You have the ability to accept or reject. You can accept or reject anything I'm telling you. And you know, unfortunately, most people don't utilize that properly. We reject what we should be accepting, and we accept what we should be rejecting. We sit and listen to the news. We read the paper. We absorb all this negative information. They say, but it's real. That's the way it is. But it doesn't have to be real for you, and it doesn't have to be that way for you. Why would we reject the idea that we could do great things? Why did the whole world reject the idea that the Wright brothers could actually introduce us to a new kingdom? Do you know there was only one man and 4 boys watched that historic flight? It took almost 5 years before the public believed that they actually got off the ground. Anytime anyone has made a great breakthrough, almost everybody rejected it, except to the person that made the breakthrough. You and I have the ability to accept or reject information. That is a phenomenal ability. We've got to learn how to use it properly. You and I have the ability to originate. We can actually originate ideas in our mind, create the world we want. Now, the subconscious mind must accept whatever you give to it. It's like the earth. It's immoral. It doesn't care what you plant, but it will return what you plant. It's like Earl Nightingale explained the strangest secret. He said you can plant corn, a sweet food, or nightshade, a deadly poison. Right beside each other, one will grow with just as great an abundance as the other. The earth will accept it. The subconscious mind will accept it. Only the subconscious is many times more fertile than the earth. Your subconscious mind cannot reject. It has absolutely no ability to reject. Whatever you give to it, that's it. Now here's the beautiful truth. Your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. Do you know, if you build an image in your mind, you see yourself doing something absolutely phenomenal, and you get emotionally involved, you'll end up doing it. That's the way it works. It's so phenomenal. If you ever get an opportunity to watch the video that Sandra Gallagher, she's the president and CEO of our company, made on visioneering, lock into it, get it, and study it, because it's phenomenal, and she's really got it down pat. And that has to do with the imagination. Now, with all that information, what do we do with it? Well, let's take a look. How did we get to where we are? Is this us as an infant? Not quite. This part is missing. That's right. The conscious mind is missing. It is not developed. So let's set it out of the way and take a look at what happened to you and me when we arrived on the scene. Our subconscious mind, remember, it has to accept, it cannot reject, and whatever was going on around us goes right into our subconscious mind. Now, I was born during a Great Depression, during the Second World War. I was just a little kid. What kind of information do you think I was getting fed? Everybody, it was poverty. Everybody was screaming, just trying to make ends meet. That's all we heard. That's all that was programmed. Over and over and over, that information was programmed into the mind. Do you know that almost all welfare recipients are third, fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients? And that is because the baby sits there and accepts whatever's given to it. That's how you learn the language you learn. And you know something? You have an image of you. It controls how you walk. It controls how you talk. It controls how you meet and greet people. It controls how you dress. It controls everything about you. It's called a self-image. It's how you see you. But odds are pretty good, unless you're that one of 2 or 3% of the percentile of the population. You didn't build that self-image at all. That self-image was built before you even had the ability to think. That's right. The ideas that were planted in your mind caused you to form an image of you. But that was just one idea. A multitude of those ideas is called a paradigm. Now, do you know, we're going to touch on paradigms just a little bit. But paradigms literally control a person's life. That's right, unless they take charge. Now, that's rather a sad truth, but it's the way it is. We are being controlled by ideas that have been passed along genetically from many generations ago, passed along in the genes, and then from the ideas that we're surrounded by as a child. This is where you learn to like the food you like. This is where you learn to speak the language. If you were raised in a home that was bilingual, you're bilingual. If you were born in Asia or India or somewhere where multi-languages are spoken, it's not uncommon for a person to speak 4, 5, 6 languages. Now, if you're in a country where only one language is spoken fluently in a home, you would find that preposterous that a person could learn that many languages. They not only learned them, they didn't even have any difficulty learning them because they learned them when they were infants. Do you know that most of the things you do today, the way you dress, walk, talk, and everything, was programmed into you in your little life? Now, let's move ahead and look at ourselves today. Here we are. I've gone through all the potential. I've gone through how we were raised as children. Now look at it. We are inundated with information. We have a reasoning factor. I said that's what gives us the ability to think. Yet when we're getting inundated with all this bad information about economy, about people can't find work, we have the ability to reject that information. Just say, get out of here. And you would think a person with any degree of wisdom would do that. But we don't. What do? Well, we don't even think about it. We leave our mind wide open, and it just pours into our subconscious mind. Why do we do that? That's our paradigm. We're programmed to do that. We're not programmed to think. Thinking isn't a subject that's taught in school. And yet you can teach a person to think, same as you can teach them to type or play a piano. But we don't do that. Stop and believe. When you went to school, did they teach you to think? Okay, we're having a class on thinking today, children. Did you learn anything about your higher faculties? Did you learn about perception or intuition or the will? Odds are no. We are not taught how to use our higher faculties. In fact, this diagram that you're looking at, this is exactly how most people go through life. Now, what happens because of this? Well, let's take a look. You'll find that school gave us very valuable knowledge. However, school never taught us how to alter old paradigms. No, they didn't. Therefore, we frequently do not do what we already know how to do. Now, if you want to find a person that's frustrated, a person that's really confused, find an individual who has superior knowledge. They've got degrees coming off the end of their business card, but they've got inferior results. And that is not uncommon. You'll find people with tremendous knowledge, and yet they're losing. Superior knowledge, inferior results. That causes a lot of confusion. Do you know there's people that are absolutely brilliant and they're broke? There's other individuals who they're maybe functionally illiterate. They cannot read or write, and they're earning millions. How does that happen? Well, let's take a look at this graphic illustration. Here we are with the mind and body. And there's the individual just loaded down with information. Man, they were great students. They read it. They remembered it. They repeated it. They come out with 4 perfect marks. But they never learned anything about their paradigm. And their results didn't match up with all the knowledge. You see, the paradigm causes the results. And they are locked into an idea. It's part of their paradigm that if they're going to get better results, they have to learn some more. If you're going to get better results, you have to gain an understanding of how the paradigm works. You have to change the paradigm. And when you get a new paradigm, that's when you start to see the results change. That's what my company is all about. That's what I'm all about. That's what everybody in our company is about. This is what we teach. You see, you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone that doesn't already know how to do a better job. I'll go into a corporation, I'll sit down, they'll say, well, what could you do for us? I will frequently get the person I'm talking to name 2 or 3 people in the company by first name. I don't care if they're big or small performers. And I'll say, you know they know how to do a better job, don't you? Yeah. They know how to do a better job, but they're not doing it. Do you know, I went into the Prudential of America, never sold insurance, knew virtually nothing about insurance. And yet the sales went up by hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I did? I got the people to do what the company had already trained them to do. They knew how to do it. They weren't doing it. See, we've got the knowledge, but we're not acting on it. The part of our mind that gathers knowledge is not the part that controls the behavior of this instrument we're living in. Now let's look at this for a moment. I want you to look at the areas of your life that your paradigm has enormous influence over. Your perception. Your paradigm controls how you see things. Do you ever think of this? You sit and watch a court case. There'll be the accused and then 12 of their peers sitting in judgment. They're the jury. Every one of those jurors gathers exactly the same information. They sat in the same court. They reviewed the same information. And yet, their perception of it may be totally different. And they end up with a hung jury. One person will say, well, he's obviously guilty, and the other says he's obviously not guilty. They had the same information. It's perception. You see, what the court never considers is the paradigm of the juror. Perception. You could miss the opportunity because you don't see it. How about the use of time? Do you know that everybody gets the same amount of time? We get all there is. Our paradigm dictates how we utilize our time. Some people are super productive. Other people are not. Our paradigm controls our creativity. There's no one that's more creative than another. Everyone's creative. We're God's highest form of creation. Why is it that we have great big companies and little wee creative departments? Most people don't know they're creative. They don't know how to tap into that creative flow that they've got inside them. Our paradigm controls our effectiveness. It controls our productivity. Now, this is a big one. Our paradigm literally controls our logic. Do you know for centuries, everyone on this planet believed that the world was flat? Oh, you've heard that. We've heard it, but we have a hard time really believing. Did people believe that? Of course they believed it. That was perfectly logical to them. People didn't travel like they do now. It had to be flat. I mean, how would you live on the side? Forget the bottom. It was logical to believe that anything heavier than air is attracted towards the center of the earth, therefore we can't fly. Do you know that logic is controlling your paradigm and it controls the goals you set? You'll hear people say you've got to be realistic. No. If you're going to win, you've got to be unrealistic. You've got to be illogical. Step out and go after something everybody thinks is crazy. That's what the winners do. Now get this. Do you know your paradigm controls your ability to earn money? One of the first things I'll ask someone if they come to work with me is, what's the most you've ever earned in a year? I don't really care what it is, but I want to know what it is, because you see, that gives me an idea where this inner cybernetic mechanism that controls their behavior is set. Well, here's the bottom line. All of those areas, a person's boxed in. Now, unfortunately, the information to get out of the box is on the outside of the box. You're going to have to study. That's what we're all about. That's what we do. Now, when you make a decision, you're going to change your paradigm. What you've done is fold the box up and just send it on its way. Now, that doesn't mean that all these areas improve, but it means these areas can improve. Just imagine how your entire life would change as you begin improving any or all of these areas of your life. Your change will be huge, huge. And get this, when you change the paradigm, your change is permanent. Now that's the beautiful part. Your change will be huge and it'll be permanent. Now, I want you to think with me. I want you to really look at this. Let's take a look at a couple of these areas. I want you to imagine if you just brought all of your conscious attention to bear on the use of your time. Do you know me, Bob Proctor? I am many times more productive today than I ever was in the past. I don't work as hard, but I'm so much more productive because I'm very consciously aware of my time. I like to be on time. I don't like to be late. When I get up or wake up, I get up. I don't want to waste a second of my life. Life is precious. And you do run out. You will make a transition. Just the same as you did when you were born, you're going to make one and you'll move on to the next phase of your eternal journey. But while you're here, you've got exactly the same amount of time as the next person. You've got all there is. So it's what are you doing with your time? Now, if you just focus on this one area of the utilizing of your time more effectively, have you any idea how it might affect your income? Your income would absolutely skyrocket. It would absolutely skyrocket. There's no question about it. Now, I'm operating on the premise you'd like to change your income. Well, if you want to change your income, you're going to have to change your paradigm. And if you're going to change your paradigm, you're going to have to understand how to change your paradigm. And there's only way to gain understanding, only one way, and that's through study. Now, there's many forms of study. I believe after 50 years of studying this and 43 years of dedicated working at it for 40-some years now, that we're just about as good as anybody you're going to find at helping people change paradigms. I don't care if it's a student in school. They have to change their paradigm before they change the grades in school. If it's your income you change, if it's a business you want to build, if it's changing relationships, if it's building new relationships, whatever it is, I'm going to tell you something. It all starts inside. Now, you're either going to let somebody else's ideas that you've inherited that have passed down through the generations take control of your life, or you're going to take control of your life. Your ability to earn money is determined by your paradigm. So when I said we're talking about the power and the potential of paradigms, it is awesome. And that's what our company is all about. And if you get involved in any depth in this, we have coaching programs where they run for a year. We have in-depth power programs, total immersions that run for 3 days and 6 days. And we have programs where we hit you every day with a great video, with a great idea. Come here. Join us. Enjoy what we enjoy. This is Bob Proctor.